Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Mila, you're at my book nook, and today I have a video that is simply my 2026 reading goals, my social media goals, and all that fun stuff. I did a version of this last year, and I don't think I did a version of it the years before. 2025 was really when I honed in on certain aspects of YouTube, especially. I did quite a few vlogs at the beginning of the year. I think I did about two. I was averaging, I think, 2 a month. And I sort of fell off because it was getting really difficult and I was getting a little burnt out. But I was able to sort of create themes or specific sort of lists of usually 3 books. That seems to be my sweet spot in terms of TBRs. And I managed to knock down a couple of books, which was great. Definitely a learning experience for me because I don't do TBRs. Quick disclaimer, the sun has decided to play tricks on me today. I am filming this while it is still sunny and I still have some light, and it's going in and out. I cannot do anything about it. I don't think future me, when I'm editing this, will be able to do anything much about it, so you are just going to have to deal with the awkward lighting in this scenario. So today, as I said, I have reading goals, social media goals, and just chatting about sort of what I'm changing, what I'm keeping from last year. I don't fully remember what my goals were from last year, but I'll link the video somewhere and in the description below as well. And I think I hit my goals more or less in a sense, in a way that felt natural to me. I know one of my bigger goals was to reread the Lord of the Rings and read the Silmarillion. I did not get to either one. I did start Fellowship of the Ring in Russian, which is still a work in progress vlog-wise. And that will be coming at some point. I don't know when. I was, planning on having that out quite quickly, but reading in Russian takes me much longer than I anticipated, especially with something like Fellowship of the Ring. So that is probably going to come in the new year. And by the time you're watching this, it is the new year. So happy 2026. I am still filming this in the past. So yeah, because this is one of those things that I don't have to rely on any stats from 2025 for. The Q4 wrap up, as well as the tier ranking and all that 2025 specific books read stuff, I will have to likely film either tomorrow, the 31st, which I probably won't have time to do, or in the new year. So it is what it is. I might cut down on the sort of new year content because I feel like it's repetitive. Like if I tell you something's 5 stars and I rank it on the top tier, like, do you really need to know anything more? So I'm trying to still have those sort of expected 2025 wrap-up videos that people do on BookTube, but also add my own flair to it, I guess, and also have videos that are something you would expect from me. Like, for example, I have a recommendation video coming up that if you know me and you know my channel and you know past recommendation videos, the themes and the vibes that go on with that, you will understand, and it makes sense for me to have this kind of video on my channel. I hope that makes sense. Again, apologies for the lighting. It's weird. If I am looking there, I'm just making sure I'm in frame and I don't look stupid. So, 2026 reading goals. My reading goal as to how many books I want to read remains the same as last year, which is 25 books. I feel like that is a very round number. I like the number 25. I know a lot of people are doing 26 books in 2026, but that is, I think, I don't like that. I don't like that it's not a round number. 25 is just sort of middle of 50, and if I get up to 50, I've gone 150 of my goal. It's that kind of thing. It's that kind of easy to calculate stuff, right? So 25 books is my reading goal. On Goodreads, I have started to put 1 as my reading goal. So that has been sort of something that I implemented, I think, 2 years ago at this point. So I believe in 2024 or even 2023, I'm not too sure. But I remember Jenny from This Story and Over, love her channel. She said that she sets her Goodreads goal as 1, and that way there's less pressure to sort of keep up with all the trends, which I, to be honest, don't do because I could not care less. Sometimes I do read the trendy books because I'm just like, I'm curious, and also there's a little bit of FOMO, but anyways. So read 25 books is my overall general goal. on Storygraph is where you would see the most up-to-date goal. So if you are curious as to why my Storygraph is more updated than my Goodreads, then that is the reason I do steer towards Storygraph. I haven't deleted Goodreads because I find that as an ARC reader and as someone who already has sort of a community built on Goodreads, not a very active community, but a community nonetheless, it's fun to check in with the books my friends are reading. Maybe I can find a good recommendation, all that stuff, and just see their opinions, sort of. And it's a good platform for the reasons that I use it, right? It fits my needs, certain needs from that I have in terms of reading and tracking and all that as an ARC reader, as a Bookstagrammer, and as someone who does keep track of newer releases. Goodreads is usually the way to go, but Storygraph is literally for everything else. I have not had a problem adding indie books or self-pub books or trad pub books or ARCs at all on Storygraph. I might hit that block, but I have not yet. So no complaints from me. So that is my Rambly 25 reading goal. For 2025, I had it at 25. I hit that goal. And at one point, I made a deal with my youngest brother, Oscar, who's 13, that if he read 100 books by the end of the year, I would get him an embosser, right? And a book embosser that said from the library of, and then his name, right? For like New Year's or whatever. And I decided to be kind and extend that goal to his birthday, which is in February. So he has some time. And if he hits it, great. If he doesn't, I'll extend it even further. Like I want him to get the embosser. I'm filming. What?
Came in.
Okay, I'm filming. Skedaddle. No, I'm filming, Alisa. Close the door. Anyways, so I put Alisa, close the door. I'm filming. Mom! And I set myself a goal of 75. So if I hit 75 before the year ends, he will have to get me something. That something is still inconclusive as to what it is. But I have not hit that goal, although I might try for next year to sort of, in the back of my mind, if I hit 25 early on, I might amp it up to 75. So if that happens, do not be alarmed. But I think 75 is a pretty attainable goal for me because I do read quite a lot and I got into graphic novels and mangas. So that will be really easy to hit. And again, if I don't hit it, it's not the end of the world. I find that 25, I have consistently hit close or above, like far above that number. So like even with 2 days left now, I can probably finish a book in like 1 or 2 sittings and hit 60, right? Which would be 15 away from 75. But considering I set that goal pretty late in the year, I gave myself a very short amount of time to catch up because all of a sudden it went from 25 and being over that, right? So having hit that goal and then all of a sudden 75 and it's like I have to read 20 books just to catch up. So there was that time factor. And I'm a fast reader, but I'm also picky with my reads and I also sometimes am busy. So the next goal I have is something different to last year. It's similar, but with a small asterisk, with a small caveat, with a change, right? Simply put, it is to read 1 book in Russian and 1 book in French to my goal. So instead of finishing a book in Russian or finishing a book in French, I want to give myself a goal, right? And read up to that point, because reading in Russian, reading in French is fine. I'm a relatively fast reader in French, but reading in Russian is where I sort of stumble like a child, right? So I don't read a lot in Russian, but I want to get into it, and I haven't found my genre in Russian. Like, for example, in French, my genre is very much mysteries because those are fast and those are really entertaining, especially authors like Guillaume Musso or Joel Dicker. Like, those are fantastic authors. I haven't really ventured beyond that, but I do. I want to read Jules Verne. I want to read Alexandrian. I want to read Victor Hugo. Maybe, who else was there? Like Émile Zola, I think there was. I just want to read so many, French authors in the original, and I think that giving myself that small, sort of fairly attainable goal of reading to my goal and not the full book will help me get to that and help me acquire the habits that I have in English, in Russian and French in their own sense. So for Russian, I want to read up to book 2 of Fellowship of the Ring. So if you don't know, if you're confused as to like book 2 is Two Towers, yes and no. So originally, The Lord of the Rings as a whole was supposed to be one book. Because of publishing and all that stuff at the time that Tolkien was going to publish it, they had restraints. They had limits, right? So they had to split it up into 3. But what Tolkien actually did was he actually split up every book into 2 books each, right? So Fellowship has book 1 and 2, Two Towers has book 3 and 4, and Return of the King has book 5 and 6. And this is significant in the sense that in Two Towers and Return of the King, instead of seeing that back and forth between horse people at Rohan with King Theoden, so Legolas, Merry Pippin, Aragorn, and Gimli, and then we switch to Frodo and Sam as well as Gollum, we actually have the horse girls, as I'll call them, in book 4, and then in book 3, and then we have Frodo and Sam in book 4, and then again in this same thing in Return of the King, we have the horse girls, I believe. Is it the horse girls? I think it's the horse girls in book 5, and then Sam and Frodo in book 6, and they all come together in book 6. So that's roughly it. But in Fellowship of the Ring, they're still all together, so we're mainly following Frodo. But yeah, so up to book 2, so up to when Frodo passes out from his wound made by the Witch King of Angmar, I believe it was the Witch King at Weathertop, and when he wakes up at the House of Elrond on the 24th of October at 10 a.m. So at 10 o'clock in the morning. So if you can't tell, I love the movie so much and I love the book so much, so I can literally quote that line from memory. But so that is my goal for the Russian book. I do want to try audiobooks. My dad tends to fly through audiobooks. He also has them on 1.5 speed, which is a mood. I have my books on 1.75 speed, sometimes 2 even. It depends on the narrator. But I want to try to get to audiobooks in Russian, and I want to try to figure out what my genre in Russian is, and maybe try a classic. Who knows? If I read 5 chapters of a classic, that will be my other goal if I hit the goal for Fellowship. Anyways, the goal for the book in French is to read the first volume of Le Comte de Monte Cristo, which is The Count of Monte Cristo by Alexandre Dumas. The reason why I say only the first volume is because the first volume is literally 970 pages. I think that's what it was in my copy on my Kindle. Insane amount of pages, by the way, on my Kindle too. And I say only volume 1 because I already read The Count of Monte Cristo, and it's, I guess, relatively fresh in my mind, so I don't think that it'll be super difficult. Not as difficult as the Fellowship in Russian, okay? The Fellowship in Russian, the Fellowship in English is already difficult, right? And I speak English very well, fluently, right? Native speaker level. But it's not an easy book. It's very, I don't want to say dense, but for lack of a better word, it's dense. So read 1 book in French to my goal. So that is Tome 1 or Volume 1 of Le Comte de Monte Cristo, which ends at a specific point. I don't remember which point, but it ends at a specific point, and I already have it downloaded and locked and loaded on my Kindle. So yeah, that is the book in French goal, and I've been yapping for so long, and we're not even halfway through the list. Anyways, the next goal I have is read all the book club picks. So if you're unaware, I run a book club. It is called the Museum Society Book Club, and I will link down below how you can join. So for 2026, I have 3 lists, so to speak. So we are reading a new fantasy release as well as a classic every month. And we are also reading 2 nonfictions per quarter, and then there's a bonus nonfiction book in case one of the nonfictions isn't to your taste or whatever, or you didn't enjoy it. So there's an extra one. So yeah, I want to read all the books. So right now I have the first 6 months for the fiction releases and the classics, and I have all 12. Is it 12? 3, 6, 9, 12. Yeah. All 12 nonfictions because it's per quarter, and all these nonfictions have already been released, so I'm not banking on release dates or information or cover reveals, all that stuff. So that's what I like to do. So I have a video for that. If you'd like to check it out, I will link it down below. And yeah, so fiction is 12 books, classics is 12 books, and nonfiction is also 12 books. I want to catch up with the arcs. I am sitting at like a 49%. I haven't done too terribly. I've read a couple of arcs actually this year, which was a fantastic thing to do. But again, I want to catch up real fast and actually make a dent in it before I start going ham and requesting more books and actually getting approved. Then I want to read 5 novellas. I love novellas. I love shorter books. As much as I love the longer ones, the shorter ones are great. Sometimes you want more. Sometimes they're just like the perfect length. Sometimes you wish they were shorter. You never know, right? I have read some fantastic shorter books. I have read, this was ages ago, but I read The Six Deaths of the Saint by Alexandrian. Loved it. I do want to read The Everlasting. That is on my list of books to read. I am so behind. I have read The Night in Butcherbird by Alex E. Harrow. I have read, what else have I read? I think those are the first. Oh, I read Untethered Sky by Funnily, which I absolutely adored. I love that novella. So those are the 3 that I can think of off the top of my head. I know there's a song of the singing, like something of the sing, Tale of the Singing Hills or Song of the Singing Hills by Nevo, I think the name is. I don't know how to pronounce it. I'm so sorry. But it's like the ones with the really pretty covers. There's like a rabbit on one. And it's like Empress of Salt and Fortune or something like that. Those seem really short, so I really want to get to those eventually. There's also the Seanan McGuire books, I think, that are fairly short. The Wayward Children series. Like Every Heart a Doorway, those books I think are relatively short, so I want to get to those. Then I want to read new to me authors, which I did this year, and it was phenomenal. It was fantastic. I think I read a relative amount of new authors every year just because a lot of them are debuts, and I try to keep up on new fantasy releases that are actually interesting to me, not just ones that are like, super duper popular on like TikTok or whatever. But yeah, I want to read more new to me authors. Then I want to read 5 YA books because I want to be updated in the YA sphere. I want to read 5 middle grades, which I did this year. I read the whole Amulet series, and I also read some mangas and all that stuff. I want to listen to 3 audiobooks. So far, I have 1 audiobook down in 2025. I'm almost to 2 audiobooks, but I don't think I will finish it before 2026 hits, unfortunately. But hey, if I finish it in the new year, I will count it as an audiobook for the new year. So it will have a relatively, far head start, so to speak. I want to have at least 3 annotated books. I love annotated books. I love annotating my books. I love writing in the margins. I love sticking tabs on it. I love putting sticky notes on it. One of my most annotated books, and I do not have it with me right now because it is at my cousin's place because I annotated for her. We had a little thing where we would annotate our copies of Six of Crows and we would switch. She finished Six of Crows. She did finish annotating, so she actually has 2 copies of Six of Crows, one of which is actually the one that's supposed to be mine. Anyways, so I finally got my annotated copy for her to her finally, because we went to visit them over the summer, which was really nice because we hadn't seen them in a long time. And so it was really nice. So I want to have at least 3 annotated books. I love annotating. I imagine most of it would be my like classics, probably, because I literally have like 12 classics I have to read, and I love annotating classics. There's so much to annotate. I do have another annotated book that I hadn't finished annotating it, but it is The Count of Monte Cristo. This is my copy. Do you see how, Penguin, I have a bone to pick with you, but it's just, this was such an adventure. I want to erase my memory and read this again. It's taken me like a month to read. Anyways, moving back to my reading goals. I want to read more manga, and I want to read more graphic novels. The mangas I have in progress, so to speak, are Frieren, Witch Hat Atelier, The Girl from the Other Side, and Spy X Family. I've only read the first volume of each one, and I keep on putting Frieren Volume 2 on hold on Libby, and then I keep on borrowing it and then not reading it. They read really fast. I don't know what's wrong with me, but anyways. So yeah, read more graphic novels. I have read the whole Amulet series, which was fantastic. And I really enjoyed that series. I love the art style. There's something about the art style that is so just Nickelodeon nostalgic. It's so nostalgic to me. And then I also started the Lightfall series by Tim Probert. The first one is called The Girl and the Galdurian. The second one is called The Shadow of the Bird. So I read the first two, which fantastic. And I'm excited to sort of expand and read more and have more also recommendations for everyone, because I want to have graphic novel recommendations and manga recommendations. So yeah. The next goal I have is finish at least 10 series I've started. The reason I say 10 and not 5 is because this is a fairly attainable goal. A lot of the books I read are part of a series. Perhaps I should have done continue at least 10 series I've already started, because I know some of them I will have to reread the first book. Like, for example, Jade City. I do not remember a thing happens in Jade City, okay? The Green Boat Saga, sorry. I do not remember a thing that happened in Jade City. I devoured that book. I don't remember a thing. Natural History of Dragons, which I have up here. It's called The Memoirs of Lady Trent. I read the first book. I read the second book. There's one significant thing that I remember that happens in the first book, and then it's all blank. I read them so long ago, right? And again, with the continuing rather than finishing, I have somehow ended up reading only one Game of Thrones book per year. So 2025, I read the second book. 2024, I started the series, right? I read a Game of Thrones. I started the second book, and then I got completely sidetracked by the Old Kingdom series by Garth Nix, which is Silmarillion and a Porson. At least those are the first 3 books. I believe it's 6 books in total, but I'm not really looking to read the other books. Anyways, so I got completely sidetracked, and only in 2025 did I manage to restart and finish A Clash of Kings, which is the second book. And then I've got the third book to go, so I'm hoping to just read that in 2026 eventually. No, I'm not in a hurry, I'm not in a hurry. So, also the books are really long. Sometimes you just need to take a step back because, yikes. The next thing I have is a small challenge. It is read a book from each continent. The reason why I don't want to do the around the world challenge is I know it'll be so insanely difficult to find books from certain places in English. And yeah, so I want to read a book from each continent. And some of them will be the easiest book to find for the continent, because sometimes I just have no energy to find a very obscure book. Does that make sense? I don't want to seem like I am going to treat other continents as less, but sometimes it's really difficult to find an interesting book, and you just want to go for the most popular thing. And sometimes it's popular for a reason, right? Like for North America. What am I going to read for North America? I think I might read an indigenous book for North America. I think I wanted to read Marrow Thieves, I believe it was, for a while. So something like that, because it has to do with the indigenous population of North America. For South America, maybe I'll read a fantasy with Latino elements and stuff like that, written by a Latino author. So things like that. I don't have a full list yet. For, I think, Asia, I might just read the Chukchi Bible, because that's the first thing that comes up for Asia, which is not, the easiest thing to, it's not, the background of the author and the book is not something that people really think about. Chukchi are a group of indigenous people in Russia, so that also ties in with the North American indigenous kind of thing. So I want to really spotlight those. Europe will be a little difficult because I don't know. I don't know what I'm going to use for Europe. I might just go for a classic or something like that. Maybe a classic that's not set in England or, Western Europe, but more maybe Eastern Europe. That would be interesting. That would be very interesting, actually. So just that kind of thing. Sometimes I might go for the popular book. Sometimes I might go for a slightly unpopular book because I know that I will like it, or I have more background information and I'm more comfortable with it. But just don't judge me too harshly. I will do some research and I will get back to you on that. I don't have a set list in mind. Then I have read 5 Jules Verne books. Jules Verne is sort of the father of, I guess, modern science fiction, or whatever you want to call it. He has a series called Les Voyages Extraordinaires, the Extraordinary Voyages, I think, or Adventures, or whatever. And I have a whole checklist of it. I did so much research on it, sort of. Let me just show you. Hold on a second. So they're actually like separated into specific categories. So there's Europe, Celestial Spaces, Africa, the Robinson Cycle, the Two Americas, World Tour, the Polar Lands, Asia, Seas and Oceans, and Oceania and Australia. So this is a 2-page spread that I have on in my reading journal. So it's not anything, you know, fancy or anything, but it works, and I want to get at least the most popular ones I want to, you know, get down. And we have read all quarterly hopefuls on my reading wrap-ups, the quarterly ones on Instagram. I have a list of quarterly hopefuls for the next quarter, and then when that quarter comes to an end, I look back and I'm like, oh, did I read any of the quarter 2 hopefuls? You know, that kind of thing, right? So yeah. So read all quarterly hopefuls. I have quite a bit of quarterly hopefuls for Q1, but hopefully I will be able to attain that, or at least most of them. Continue A Song of Ice and Fire. Obviously, continue 75 Booked Beyond 75 Days. 75 Booked is a challenge created by a person on Instagram, I believe it was. And she also has a video on it, I believe. And basically, it's akin to 75 hard, I guess, or 75 soft, whichever you want. I guess 75 medium would be appropriate moniker for it. And basically, it's a bunch of rules that you have to follow for 75 days in order to bring reading back into your life as a habit and not as something that is a chore. And then we have reread Lord of the Rings. Read the Silmarillion. I am determined, and that is probably going to be one of my annotated books. Then we have a couple of social media goals. As you know, I run a bunch of social media pages. I am here on YouTube as Mila's Book Nook. I'm on Instagram as Alexandrian.archives, and the C in archives is an X. I am on Threads, same username. I am on Substack as Alexandrian Archives. It is now my blog. So that is where I will have long-form written content instead of the Squarespace website. So if you search up Alexandrian Archives, it will not bring you to the Squarespace website because that is gone. And Substack's great. It's free, which is fantastic. So post more on Substack. I want to start consistently posting on Substack and consistently growing my community on there. I want to start posting consistently on YouTube, something that will not burn me out. So that will require quite a few, I guess, weekends and days of me filming in advance. Then I want to post consistently on Instagram. I have been pretty solid for Instagram, posting on there and stuff, but I do want to keep up with that. But who knows? Then I want to try 30 days of Reels, because Reels is how people gain traction. And I hate Reels, but a girl's got to do what she's got to do. So I got to do what I got to do, right? I have been stuck under 1.5 thousand. So I want to get to 3K on Instagram. I want to get to over 1K on YouTube, and I want to get on 50 readers on Substack. And as to how I will be tracking all of it, I have a reading journal that I will be using to track all my reads and all that stuff in various formats, I guess. And I will have quarterly reading wrap-ups on here on YouTube and Instagram, as well as my Substack. I use primarily Storygraph, as I said. I'm not on Fable. Do not ask me to go on Fable. I will also have updates in the Instagram channel for the book club as to how my reading is going and all that fun stuff. And I am primarily on Storygraph. So if you want to follow me on a book tracking platform, follow me on Storygraph, please. You can follow me on Goodreads. I'll accept your friend requests. I really don't care. But please do follow me on Storygraph majorly. I would appreciate it. So that's the main way that I'm going to sort of track everything. And that is it for this video. I know it was rambly. I know it was long, but I hope you enjoyed regardless, and let me know your thoughts and your questions and more ideas and stuff. Again, I want to frame this as a sort of not like rigid goals. They're not going to be rigid. I'm not rigid ever in goals. I find that very constrictive, and I find it very I don't like having goals be like something that is that puts me in a chokehold, so to speak. So 25 books, if I don't hit that, whatever. I'm not too pressed about it. That's why I put 1 on Goodreads. I'm not pressed about it, but it would be fun to read 75 books. And before anyone's like, oh, how do you read 75 books in a year? I prioritize reading as a hobby. I'm going to tell you right now. I don't watch a lot of TV. And if I do watch something, it's vlogs or booktube, or it's listening to music on YouTube. I cannot stress enough how there's like maybe a handful of TV shows that I follow to a T. And even then, there's probably 2 right now that I am consistently following, and that is Percy Jackson and 911. Like, literally, I waited so long for season 6 of The Rookie to come on Disney Plus that I lost interest, because it was so long between the end of season 5 and from when I watched season 5 and when we got season 6 of The Rookie on Disney Plus, that like I lost interest. So not even The Rookie's on that list. So Percy Jackson right now, because it's releasing and I'm actively keeping up with the cast and all the stuff, and I don't want, because I just genuinely, it's such a silly, goofy show sometimes, but so those are literally the consistently 2 shows that I follow. So make reading a priority. You want to read more, make reading a priority. You want to read more, branch out into other formats. Okay, if you find that physically reading a book and you have an e-reader, and you find that physically reading a book is slow for you, switch to the e-reader. If you find that reading with your eyeballs is too slow for you, read with an audiobook. Audiobooks count. I cannot stress this enough. We are an audiobook household. Literally, as I tell you, my dad burns through an audiobook a day because he consistently has it playing in his ear, and these books are like 12 hours long, 10 to 12 hours long, and he consistently listens to them throughout the day, and like in the car, on the drive to work, on the drive from work, on the drive to like, I don't know, the train station to drop me off. Like, he's constantly listening to an audiobook, and he burns through an audiobook like every 2 days. So audiobooks are great. They're fantastic. They're an accessibility tool, and they're just overall great because people put so much passion into these projects, because audiobooks are so difficult to just make. Anyways, that is it for this video. I hope you enjoyed the ramble. Please let me know your goals down below, and if you'll be adopting any of these, and I will see you in the next one. Happy reading!